What's your full name?
Cheryl Lynn Marie Sanchez.
And a cell phone number or a home number?
Area code 213-514-4206. That's my cell phone number, so it's 213-514-4206.
And the name and phone number of an agent if an agent submitted you.
I don't have an agent. My husband does, and her name is Therese with the Wayne Agency, and her number is 310-492-5994.
And your email address.
C as in cat, L as in Larry, M as in Marie, S as in Sam, the number 1 at yahoo.com. So that's CLMS1 at yahoo.com.
And your age.
36.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an architect.
And what state and city do you live in?
Long Beach, California.
And how long ago were you diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?
I was diagnosed in June of 2003, which will be in a couple months, 12 years.
And what were the initial symptoms that led to your MS diagnosis?
The initial symptoms were actually a recurrence of previous symptoms, I should say. I'd had about 5 years prior, but we didn't know what they were related to and didn't do anything with that, which was some shooting pains along my occipital nerve, along my skull here. And they were pretty consistent and pretty painful. And so I went to an urgent care at hospital, and after some questions from the ER doctor, they were able to determine that I needed an MRI, and that was able for me to get my diagnosis from that.
And how long have you been treating your MS?
Off and on since then, probably more off than on. I have been on a couple medications. The first one is Avonex, I should say. I was on that for about a year, and that's a intramuscular injection. I was also on Rebif for about 5 to 6 months, which is a subcutaneous injection. And since then, I haven't really been in anything like typical or throughout, except for maybe intermittent steroids for relapses.
What kind of treatment options have you sought out, and what medications are you currently using?
Okay, I'm not currently on any medication. I have tried, like I said, Avonex and Rebif. I have an appointment with a neurologist on Monday. I have a relapse right now with some numbness in my right hand, as well as, I joke and I say it's stroke mouth. I have some numbness on my upper left hand side of my mouth, and it has cold and a little bit of numbness intermittently, which gives me some problems enunciating and saying words correctly. But when I go to my appointment on Monday, we are thinking about testing out or getting Tecfidera, which is one of the newer pill-type medications for MS, and that would be what we're going to discuss on Monday.
How severely do your MS symptoms affect your daily life, including mobility and your ability to concentrate on work?
I would say that I want to say it doesn't really, at least I don't think it affects me on a grander scale so much. I probably maybe get used to a lot of the things that go on, so therefore it becomes my normal, and as a result I may not pay attention to them. But I do have some little memory loss or whatever, but I guess people can easily attribute that to getting older or forgetful or having a lot of things on your plate. So I would say that I don't think it affects my workday so much, at least not significantly. It's probably minor things only currently.
What about fatigue?
I do have fatigue. I do get tired, I guess maybe easier than other people. At least they say that my fatigue is different than anyone else, but I would like to think that I think most people will get tired during the day anyway, waking up and going to work or doing whatever. So I can't really separate and say that my fatigue is more so than others, but they say that my fatigue is more than what other people are experiencing. So that's mostly, I guess, it. I can't say too much.
How do you cope with the day-to-day challenges that come with living with MS?
Day-to-day challenges, as I mentioned earlier, is that a lot of this stuff becomes normal. which is kind of, I guess, unfortunate in some way, because I probably don't notice a lot of the things that happen to me because I get so used to it that that's my life, like muscle spasms or little things like that that I don't are very subtle, and I don't know if anyone would pick up on them, but I just part of who I am that I don't even notice them so much anymore. I would say that I usually notice things that are new, like my hand or my mouth that I'm experiencing right now, or if I experience anything else, I'll pick up on it pretty quickly. But other than that, I don't know if I do anything extra or different than just going about my business during the day.
Do you have any adaptive devices or any so-called life hacks that make your day and your daily routine easier? And are these things that you'd suggest to other MS patients?
I don't know if I have any specific life hacks other than I do nap, especially on the weekends when I can. That helps energize me, I guess, or just because I get tired, it just helps me out. So I would definitely recommend that. Other than that, I really rely upon my husband a lot, and he does a lot of stuff for me, like ridiculous amount of stuff, even like making me breakfast or do all these ridiculously wonderful things that he does for me. So if I could recommend getting a husband that does all those things to anyone, then that would be my number one recommendation for anyone that has MS. Obviously, that's not necessarily something that you can easily get, but the easiest thing would probably be naps. But a husband that helps you out, definitely something I think that is very useful and helpful. So
He sounds like an awesome guy.
he is an awesome guy because he's videotaping this right now for me.
Is there anything you wish you had known or been told at the time of your diagnosis that would have made life easier for you? And what advice would you share with others who are newly diagnosed with MS?
I think that what I wish I had known when I got diagnosed, because I was in urgent care, like a hospital ER setting, that they didn't or they couldn't give me a lot of options as what types of medications there were, things that, maybe suggestions to make my life easier. Like it wasn't something I felt like really prepared me to know what was going to happen. Also, I really wish that they would have told me that, you know, I guess maybe rephrase that, but I wish that they had told me that I could be like the same as I was pretty much then, potentially my whole life, and that it didn't necessarily mean that I had to be in a wheelchair or that I had to have a certain strand of MS that was going to be more debilitating than other things. So I kind of wish that they would have said that, we don't know what's going to happen, and it's very likely you could remain mostly normal, or anything like that. I think it's very easy to get scared by this disease and think about all the bad, possibly what ifs could be, maybe things that could happen to you, and to know that that's not necessarily going to be your life path. I think would have been helpful, and to recommend to other people that were newly diagnosed to be just that, is that this disease does not necessarily take a specific path. It affects everyone differently, and what may happen to me or to you is not necessarily typical or something that is written in stone, and that you can probably make your life as much and full as you want it to be, and that it doesn't mean anything specific, and that hopefully your life will remain mostly the same even after the diagnosis.
How has living with multiple sclerosis affected you both physically and emotionally? And be as open and honest as possible.
Physically, I would say yes, there are limitations. There are things that, like, maybe my balance isn't great. I have a minor in dance, and maybe I could, even though I can still do a lot of that, maybe I feel like I've held myself back a little bit on just because I don't want to do anything that could potentially hurt myself. But physically, I don't think it's really changed much of anything I do. I'm still pretty stubborn. I still do as much as anything I can used to do, or as much as I can still do now. I am more cognizant, I would say, of listening to my own body and the cues of when it's trying to tell me that I'm tired, or when I'm done for the day, and to not push it. So I think the answer for physically, at least, is listening more to my body and paying attention to little things maybe more so than I would before, but ultimately not in a way that I would say greatly changes my day-to-day activities. Um, Mentally, emotionally, right, as far as what I would recommend, what was the
Sorry.
I never remember this.
It's how has living with multiple sclerosis affected you both physically and emotionally? So you
Emotionally.
touched on the physical part of it.
Okay, so emotionally, I don't know why I forget that. It's actually one of the best things, ironically, I think, is that I don't want this to sound cliche or corny or what have you, but it has actually made me a much better person. Um, Before I was diagnosed, I had like a huge chip on my shoulder and angry at the world and just let all those little things really dictate my life and, ultimately upset me unnecessarily. I think since the diagnosis, I live a much more positive life because although in the beginning, I think I will admit that I worried about all those would be, could be types of things of being in a wheelchair or whatever, until I realized from a coworker of mine that I could literally worry about all those things, but then I could also get hit by a truck tomorrow and it wouldn't even matter anymore. And I think that realization was kind of freeing in a way that I live a life very differently. I don't sweat the small stuff because in the greater scheme of life, it does not matter. Like, obviously, getting things done or whatever, working and all those things are important, paying the bills. But in the greater scheme of life, it's some of that, most of that stuff just isn't important. And I think it's changed my view to focus on the more important things and to maybe even do things in my life that I wouldn't normally have done.
Great. Do you do anything such as blogging or participate in social events to raise money and awareness and to help empower yourself with MS? And if so, what are they?
Back in the days before Facebook, there was a website called LiveJournal, which was an online journal, and it also had communities. There was an MS support community on there that I was part of, and through an unfortunate set of posts from, since it was an open community, it was for anyone affected with the disease, caregivers, family members, friends, etc., and the diagnosed. Um, we had a kind of upsetting post from a daughter who was venting and had perfectly, being a teenage daughter, perfectly the right to do so, was venting about ultimately how she wished her mom would just die because of the fact that it was too impactful upon her own life and it was causing her, detriment or whatever over helping support her mom. As you can imagine, that did not go over well with everyone that was diagnosed because that's the last thing you want to be as a burden. But because of that situation, I decided to open a new community that was just for people that were diagnosed. And it wasn't meant to be exclusive or discriminatory or snooty in any way. It was mostly just because I felt that maybe for people that just had the disease would really benefit from talking with other people that just had the disease and that we could do our own venting, including about caregivers or family members that didn't understand, which wouldn't go over well in the other community, just like them venting about us did not go over well in ours. So I did create that. Sadly, it's still live, but it's not very active because of other social media sites like Facebook or whatever, so it's not really in use, although it is still up there. I've also done some MS walks before and raised money for MS research. I have not done anything recently, mostly because we've moved around a bit, but now that we've actually put some roots down in Long Beach, I expect to be more active in doing the MS walks again and whatever other activities come along.
Great. Random question now. Is there anything else that you would like them to know about who you are and what you do?
Anything extra? Let's see. See, this is why we don't plan these things. Oh, I have cats. As you can probably see from the video, I didn't even hear him. He's like a ninja. Anyways, I have cats. I have a wonderful husband, and I would like to say that through this process, I like to say that I'm really upbeat, and it's changed my life in a very positive way. And that is cheesy and whatever, but in the job I have right now, where I help actually manage about 100 people in the company, it has allowed me to see not only the greater scheme of life, but actually get more in touch with my project managers. One of them, his ex-wife, was going through a diagnosis process of either fibromyalgia or MS. And so I was there to talk to him about the differences in the diseases and educate him. And it ultimately, I think, was really helpful for him. But because I have this other view of life, I think it allows me to be more personal in nature, and connect with the people that I work with on a much deeper level than, did you get your deadline done and blah, blah, blah. Because, in the greater scheme of life, like, that stuff doesn't matter. It matters for the job and, get paid and eat and pay bills, but ultimately, no one's going to go to a funeral and say, God, he was really good at making deadlines. And although that could be true, no one's going to do that. And I think it's the other stuff that makes your life, for the brief time that we have here, more impactful for others and actually means something. So I would say that my attitude, I would hope, is unique in some way, different. I do have cats. I have an amazing husband that helps me do just about everything, including videotaping this. And I don't think I can think of anything other than that would make me different. So
Great.
that's all I have.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.